My own sister thinks she's entitled to my inheritance because she has more kids. My father passed away unexpectedly a few months ago. It's been tough, obviously. He wasn't a millionaire, but he had some savings, a small life insurance policy, and his house. His will was very clear. Everything was to be split equally between his two children, myself and my older sister. My sister, let's call her Sarah, has 3 kids. I don't have any children. I'm unmarried, work a stable but not high-paying job, and live a relatively modest life. Sarah is married with a husband who also works, and while they have more expenses with the kids, they are by no means struggling financially. We started the process of settling the estate, which involved selling the house and liquidating some assets. The total amount to be divided wasn't life-changing for either of us, but it was a significant amount of money that represented our father's life's work and security. Almost immediately, Sarah started making comments that subtle at first, like, this money will really help with the kids' college funds, or it's good that dad left enough for us to take care of things. I agreed, thinking she was just stating facts. The entitlement ramped up when the final figures started coming into view. We were discussing how the funds would be transferred, and Sarah dropped the bomb. So about the money, she said casually, I think it makes sense for me to take a larger portion. I was confused and reminded her that Dad's will stipulated a 50-50 split. She waved her hand dismissively. Yes, well, that's what the will says, but realistically, I have 3 children to support. Their needs are greater than yours. You only have yourself to worry about. It's only fair that the money goes where it's needed most, to the next generation. I was floored. She was essentially arguing that because she chose to have children, she was entitled to a larger share of our father's inheritance than me, his other child, despite his explicit instructions. I explained that Dad's will was very clear, and that his intention was to divide his assets equally between his children. She argued that the will was old, and Dad couldn't have foreseen her having 3 kids when he wrote it. She claimed he would have wanted her to have more if he were alive today to help with the grandchildren. This was pure speculation and contradicted the document he actually signed. I refused. I told her that the inheritance was meant for his children equally, and that was final. I wasn't going to shortchange myself because she felt her family structure entitled her to more. She got angry, accusing me of being selfish and not caring about my nieces and nephews. She said I was being greedy by sticking to the will and not considering the family's, meaning her immediate family's, needs. She even suggested I didn't deserve an equal share because I didn't have kids to pass it on to. The whole situation is incredibly frustrating and hurtful. It's turned to dealing with my father's passing into a battle over money with my own sister, who believes her life choices somehow override our father's wishes and my equal right to his inheritance. We're now barely speaking, all because she feels entitled to rewrite the will based on her perceived greater need. Entitlement claiming kids override a father's will? Unbelievable. If you think this is wild, you need to subscribe for more. Tourist demands I give up my reserved train seat because her family wants to sit together. I travel by train frequently for work. On longer journeys, I always book a specific seat in advance, aisle seat, usually near the front or back for easy exit, and I pay extra for the reservation. It makes the journey much more comfortable and reliable. Recently, I was on a busy midday train. I had my reservation confirmed on my ticket. When I got to my assigned seat, there was a woman sitting in it. Next to her in the window seat was a man, presumably her husband, and across the aisle were 2 teenagers. I politely showed the woman my ticket and said, "Excuse me, I believe this is my reserved seat." She glanced at my ticket, then back at her husband, and sighed dramatically. "Oh well, we're a family and we want to sit together," she said. As if that explained everything, I pointed out that I had a reservation for that specific seat. "Yes, I see that," she replied, impatient, "but we need this seat so we can be a family unit. You can just take one of the empty seats somewhere else." The train was quite full. There were a few scattered empty seats, mostly middle seats between strangers, or seats much further down the train, away from where I preferred to sit and where my luggage was conveniently stowed overhead. I explained that I paid for this specific seat and preferred to sit there. I suggested that perhaps they could find seats together elsewhere if their current configuration wasn't working, or maybe see if someone would swap with one of the teenagers across the aisle. She immediately got defensive. No, that's too much trouble. It's easier for you to just move. We're a family. You're just one person. Surely you can understand that a family needs to sit together. She said family like it was a trump card that negated my reservation. Her husband just sat there looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. I stood my ground. I understand you want to sit together, but I reserved this seat. It's not fair for me to give up my reserved seat because you didn't reserve seats together or chose to sit in someone else's spot. She started to get louder. Are you serious? You're gonna make a fuss over a seat? We're a family. It's common courtesy. Just move. She even tried to physically block me from getting closer to the seat. At this point, the conductor was making his way down the aisle checking tickets. I flagged him down and explained the situation. He checked my ticket and the woman's ticket, which showed a different seat number entirely, further down the carriage. The conductor firmly told the woman that the seat was mine, and she needed to move to her assigned seat. She argued with him, repeating the whole "we're a family" line. The conductor patiently explained that reserved seats are reserved and families who want to sit together need to book accordingly or arrive early enough to find unreserved seats together. She finally huffily got up and gathered her things, shooting me a dirty look as she squeezed past. Her husband and the teenagers also looked annoyed. They ended up having to split up into separate available seats further down the train. It's astonishing how some people think their perceived needs, like wanting to sit with family they didn't make arrangements for, automatically override someone else's paid reservation. My reservation wasn't a suggestion, it was a contract for that specific spot. Neighbor demands I stop using my backyard fireplace because the smell bothers her. We live in a suburban neighborhood with decent-sized yards, but we're not exactly on acres of land. Houses are reasonably close, but not on top of each other. A few years ago, we installed a nice stone fireplace on our back patio. We use it maybe once or twice a month, usually on a weekend evening, to have a small fire, roast marshmallows, or just enjoy the ambiance. We're mindful of our neighbors. We only burn seasoned firewood, which produces less smoke. We check wind direction before starting a fire and avoid burning on super windy nights that would blow smoke directly into someone's open windows. We're not having huge bonfires, just small, contained fires in a proper outdoor fireplace. Our next door neighbor, Mrs. Gable, is particular. She's complained about various minor things over the years. I'm like, ew, our lawn sprinklers being too loud, they're standard sprinklers, the color of our garden gnome, yes really, and now our fireplace. The first time she complained was last fall. We had a small fire going, just a few logs. It was a calm evening. She came marching over to the fence line and called out to us. When I went over, she was standing there with her arms crossed, looking stern. Your fire is bothering me, she announced without preamble. I was confused. Bothering you? How so? I asked. The smell, she exclaimed. Hey, it's coming into my house. I had to close all my windows. It's giving me a headache. You need to put it out. I explained that we were just having a small fire in our own backyard fireplace, and that the smell of wood smoke is the natural part of that. I apologized if it was drifting, but pointed out we were being careful. She wouldn't accept that. I don't care. I don't like the smell. I have sensitive sinuses. You shouldn't be allowed to make smoke that comes onto my property. It's my right not to have to smell your fire. She demanded we extinguish the fire immediately and never use the fireplace again. I was polite but firm. I told her that we were using our property in a lawful and reasonable way, that burning firewood in a contained fireplace is perfectly legal in our area, and while I was sorry if a little smoke drifted, we weren't doing anything wrong and wouldn't be stopping. She became irate. She started listing all the reasons why her comfort was more important than our enjoyment of our fireplace. She talked about her allergies, her peace and quiet, apparently the crackling of a fire is disruptive now, and how we were being inconsiderate. She threatened to call the fire department or the city. I told her to go ahead as we were operating within all local regulations. She didn't call that night, but the next day, she left a passive-aggressive note in our mailbox about neighborly consideration and air quality. She's also taken to dramatically slamming her windows shut whenever we light the fireplace, even if the smoke is blowing the other direction. It's unbelievable that someone thinks they have the right to dictate what you do on your own property within legal limits, simply because they don't like the smell. Her entitlement to a completely scent-free environment that extends into my yard is just wild. Entitled neighbor demands you stop your legal fireplace fun over a smell? Unbelievable. Let me know in the comments if you have dealt with this. Woman demands I swap my perfectly good grocery cart for a broken one because she doesn't have time to get another. I was doing my weekly grocery shopping at a busy supermarket. I had a decent-sized cart that was working perfectly fine. Wheels weren't squeaky. It tracked straight, no bent bars. I was about halfway through my list, navigating the produce aisle. I stopped briefly to look at some avocados. I had my cart pulled up next to me, not blocking the entire aisle, as there was plenty of space for others to pass on the other side. Suddenly, a woman who looked rushed and annoyed came up to me. She had a cart that was clearly damaged. One of the wheels was bent at an awkward angle, making it difficult to push and steer. It was veering off wildly. Without any greeting or preamble, she pointed at my cart and said, "I need your cart. Mine is broken. Just swap with me." I was taken aback. I looked at her broken cart, then at my perfectly functioning one, then back at her. "I'm sorry, no," I said. "This is my cart and it's not broken." She scoffed. "Yes, but mine is broken, and I don't have time to go all the way back to the front to get a new one. Just take mine. It's fine. You can manage." Manage with a cart that was barely moving? I reiterated that I was not swapping my good cart for her broken one. I suggested she could easily find a store employee who could swap out her broken cart for a good one from the front of the store, or she could go get one herself. She got agitated. "But that will take too long. I'm in a hurry." "You're not in a hurry, are you? It's just easier if you take mine. Be a good person and swap." Her entitlement was astounding. She expected me to take on her problem and make my shopping experience miserable, simply because she couldn't be bothered to deal with her own broken cart properly. Her hurry did not magically obligate me to inconvenience myself for her. I firmly said, "No, I am not swapping carts. Please find a store employee to help you." I then turned back to selecting avocados, hoping she would get the hint. She didn't. She stood there for a moment glaring, then muttered something under her breath about how some people are so selfish. She then dramatically shoved her broken cart further down the aisle and stormed off, presumably to find an employee or another victim. It was such a bizarre and entitled demand. It wasn't like I had an extra cart or was done shopping. I was actively using my good cart, and she just expected me to hand it over because she was inconvenienced by her cart being broken and her not wanting to get a replacement herself. Entitled people asking for your cart because theirs is broken? Wild. That is just wow. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and let me know which story was your favorite.